And yes, good morning to you once again. It's Tuesday, the 31st of March, 2026. The program is On the Lord Side, Christian Perspectives on News and Current Events. My name is Olufemi Oguntokun. You can follow me on X at Olufemi OG. You can follow Gospel Bells Radio on X at Gospel Bells Radio. Well, have you been disturbed by the news of the riots in South Africa over the attempt to install a Nigerian king in one part of South Africa? If you have been disturbed by it, yeah, you should be disturbed by such news. And this is really disheartening and distressing. According to the Guardian newspapers, it says protesters burn vehicles, buildings over installation of Nigerian king in South Africa. Protesters have torched vehicles and buildings allegedly belonging to foreign nationals in protest against the installation of a Nigerian king in the Eastern Cape, South Africa. According to Monday's report from an online media outlet, Newsroom Africa, quote, there is escalating violence in Kungompo City, Eastern Cape, where protesters torched foreign-owned vehicles and buildings in response to the controversial coronation of an Igbo traditional leader as local king organized by the Nigerian community. Reports indicate that the unrest ignited after alleged attacks by foreign nationals on demonstrators, including stabbings and a vehicle ramming. The unrest was reportedly triggered by the controversial installation of a Nigerian Igbo leader, Solomon Ogbonna Ezeko, as Igwe Ndigbo on March 24, 2026, which Eastern Cape authorities deemed disrespectful to local traditions and sovereignty. And if you live in many parts of Africa, in the multi-ethnic part of Africa, and that would be almost every country in Africa, where you have different ethnic groups coexisting together. You know, these sort of things, these things happen from time to time. We're talking about South Africa now, which is not Nigeria, which is not home to the Igbo people. The Igbo community there, of course, emigrated from Nigeria to that place, settled there, and haven't formed the community. They thought to themselves, let's have someone installed as a king here, since we have a sizable number and we form a community. Attempts like that are made from time to time in different parts of Nigeria as well, that parts that are not the cultural home for the Igbo people. The Igbo people of Nigeria come from the southeast, and you have, for those who are not Nigerians who are listening, you have the Yoruba people predominantly populating the southwest, the Hausa Fulani people predominantly populating the northern part of Nigeria, and where you have many ethnic communities coexisting in a country, you'll have these tensions from time to time. And if this happened in Nigeria, we would perhaps understand. This happened, according to these multiple reports, in South Africa, and then that has led to violent protests by native South Africans who obviously are not disposed to having the Igbo community in the Eastern Cape having a local king installed to rule over them. And I can understand why people don't like things like that. Why would they have a local king? But I always ask myself, what's your problem with a community having a leader and styling that leader as a king? Some would say, oh, Femi, if you're a student of history, if this is not nipped in the bud immediately, it could lead to a situation where in the future that area will then become, or that person instead of king would then be regarded as king indeed. Well, you may have some points there, but I do not see how strong those points are. Really, a group of people have come together and they have said, look, this is our own king. When they call him king, you don't need to call him king, right? You don't need to call him king. I cannot wrap my head around why people would react so violently to things like this. If a community comes together and say, look, we live in this area and we have chosen this person as king, that does not make that person king in the eye of the law. Does not make that person king indeed. If my family members so love me and they say, okay, Femi, Daddy, we're not going to be calling you king of our own nuclear family, maybe if I'm that vain, I may rejoice in it. And it's all vanity, right? for the community there. Some people say it was an attempt to dominate the people of Eastern Cape in South Africa. Well, the man to be installed is not your own king; is their own king. Is the king of the people who wants to install him. And I'm saying this because I've seen the reactions from Nigerians to this development. Many people have said, "Look, the South Africans, unfortunately so, especially the black South Africans." Well, the Africans, although the white of them too, they had apartheid. So we've always had racial tensions in South Africa, but it has been disturbing. But we're not going to go into that now. That black South Africans who were helped by many other black African nations to get rid of apartheid, that these black South Africans, they become so intolerant of other black Africans, so much so that xenophobia is now a term that is deeply associated with black South Africans. It's a terrible thing. Xenophobia itself is the irrational fear, distrust, or hatred of foreigners, strangers, or anything perceived as foreign or outside one's own culture. It's an irrational fear, and that's how it's a phobia, and that's how the English dictionary defines it: an irrational fear, distrust, or hatred of foreigners or strangers or anything perceived as foreign or outside one's own culture. And that has become the first word that comes to mind when you think of black South Africans and their relationship with foreigners, and especially with other black Africans, and some say particularly with Nigerians. And I agree that it's an irrational fear, because just as I analyzed the matter of the Igbo community in Eastern Cape, South Africa attempting to install a king in their own community. Well, it is their own community. We're not talking about they can't lay. They are not laying claim to a physical jurisdiction. They don't have a land to themselves. They don't have a physical jurisdiction. What they have is is just that a shared heritage. They came from the same place. They speak the same language. And whenever they meet, they say, okay, among us, we want to have a king. This is the king. And they call him Nze Ndigbo of this area. That does not make him a king in the eye of the law of Eastern Cape, South Africa, right? So the reactions I've seen on social media from Nigerians, those reactions can be grouped into two broadly. You have people who say, look, black South Africans are behaving in a deplorable manner, that xenophobia has found its way again, has reared its ugly head. They've allowed their irrational fear and distrust and hatred of foreigners to lead to this riot again. On the other hand, you have people saying, oh, what's wrong with the Igbo community in Eastern Cape? Knowing that the South Africans are that intolerant of foreigners and foreign culture, why would you put your hand in their faces? Why would you poke them like that? Why would you do something like that, knowing that you are living in the midst of people who have this irrational fear, distrust, and hatred of foreigners? And it is easy for one to be pulled into one group or the other, because naturally when things like this happen, the first thing you are thinking of is who is to blame. To my mind, I find that sometimes the reaction the person who is reacting could bear the greater brunt of the blame in a particular situation, and that's what would in my own mind be the case here. And for us who think from Christian perspectives, we have to find that yes, we talk about xenophobia, we talk about these blacks being intolerant, having an irrational fear. Some people even justify it by saying, look, you have to understand the psyche of black South Africans, you have to understand their history, you have to understand how the history of apartheid has wrecked their psyche, so much so that they've become so defensive, they've become so afraid of foreigners. They've become so afraid of being dominated again. They were dominated by the white Afrikaners, for so long under the apartheid regime. Some excuse the xenophobic behavior of black South Africans today by referring to the history of apartheid in South Africa. What we have to understand from a Christian perspective is that this is a matter of the heart. ultimately, if there is irrational fear, distrust, or hatred of somebody or something, you have to stop and search. And let's go back to Pastor Agunloye's message in recent times on gospel best. You have to stop and search and ask yourself, is this something that is godly? Is this something that is noble? Is this something that is of good report? You have to stop and search and ask yourself. And you're going to find that once you stop and do that search, then things will become clear. But of course, we are talking to people who have the fear of God, who are on the Lord's side. You have to have the fear of God and be on the Lord's side for you to have such scruples. Otherwise, you're not even going to be you're not going to have any such reservations at all. You're not going to even want to stop and search your heart and say what they're about to do. And it is one thing to have it in your heart that you distrust or hate someone, which should be expunged from the heart of anyone who is on the Lord's side. It is yet another thing to then put it into action and then to begin to burn properties, to begin to do all sorts of things and cause mayhem in a place. And which protest could lead to the killing to the death of other people. Right, so this unrest we condemn it in the strictest terms, and we call attention of the Christian community in South Africa, the Christian church in South Africa, to begin to confront the people of South Africa with the truth that they need to stop and search their heart, because the Christian community in South Africa should be in the forefront of condemning the xenophobic actions and protests and killings. Indeed, on this program we've had occasions many times to engage with stories of people who were murdered in circumstances suggesting that they were the victims of xenophobic attacks. It has been said that some policemen in South Africa would would target some foreigners in what would appear to be xenophobic inspired actions. So the Christian Church in South Africa has a duty to lead in condemning these protests. The Christian Church in South Africa led in advocating against apartheid, right? Many of their priests and bishops were activists. They were active, they were anti-apartheid activists. We need Christians in South Africa today to become anti-xenophobia activists as well. This does not glorify God. It is a reflection of the sinful state of the heart of those who are carrying out these attacks. If you hate people that badly that you are prepared to kill and destroy property, there is something wrong with you as well. There's something wrong with you as well. You need to stop and search your heart. Having said that, I would also expect that foreigners who live in places where there is hostility should be mindful of their conduct as well. But again, the bigger blame is not about those who want to have a king in their own community. It's about those who have an irrational fear of foreigners, and not only that, who are also resolved and ready to do what? To destroy properties, to cause mayhem on account of that. If anyone felt truly, if anyone had concerns there that the attempt to install that Eze Ndigbo in that particular part of South Africa would violate the law of Eastern Cape, South Africa, that person should go to their court, right, and get an order to stop them. If anyone felt that the installation of that king would lead eventually to the domination by the Igbo community there, that person should then approach the legislative arm of government in Eastern Cape and get them to pass a law to prohibit the installation of that king. As Christians, we have to find always the peaceful means to resolve conflict. We always have to find a peaceful means to resolve conflict. As I said earlier on, this is not excusing those who may have triggered these actions or who may have have poked their fingers in the faces of these intolerant South Africans. It's not a wise thing. If you know there are intolerant people around you, you want to moderate your actions as well, because this is not a matter of life and death. It's not the case that if you do not have a king over your community, that your life will come to an end. There are some things that don't do just because, for the sake of peace. For the sake of peace, there are things you don't do for the sake of peace, and that will be my word to the Igbo community in Eastern Cape. But to the people of South Africa themselves, our call is to the Christian church there to lead in speaking out against xenophobic attacks on black Africans and on Nigerians generally. If you cannot tolerate people from other nations, there is something wrong with your heart. You need to stop and search. And no Christian South Africa should be among those who are part of this riot or who harbor such hatred for other Africans who are not South Africans. I said earlier on that it is the hallmark of the Christian church, it is the hallmark of the Christian man or woman to always find what the peaceful means for resolving conflict. And when we find ourselves in the marketplace, so to say, we find ourselves in the world at large, people should know us for that. It should know us that, this person will not approach this conflict this way because he's a Christian. Because he's a Christian, he or she is going to look for the most peaceful means to resolve conflict. There will always be conflicts, but this conflict should be resolved as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, and in a peaceful manner. And this leads me to the next story. I've just said that when Christians find themselves in the marketplace, in the world at large, in the secular society, we should have a reputation for always resolving our conflicts through peaceful means. Well, now I bring to you a story that should sadden your heart. It saddens my own heart. It says there's a video here on X which was posted yesterday at about 11:24 a.m. March the 30th, 2026, and the caption says, "Pandemonium erupted at St. David Anglican Church during Palm Sunday morning service as angry members disrupted activities, demanding the immediate removal of the vicar. They accused him of mismanaging church funds and awarding contracts without involving the church committee. The protesters, who had already reported the alleged misconduct to the bishop of the Akure diocese, insisted that they would not allow worship to continue until the archbishop fast-tracked the vicar's transfer. They claimed the archbishop was deliberately delaying the process." I mean, this is so difficult to read, and the video obviously difficult to watch. Because you see the inside of that auditorium, and disruption of the service, pandemonium, to use the expression of the person who published this exactly. You see priests in their robes. See other persons wearing red, being Palm Sunday, red being the liturgical color, and just so sad. And of course, I'm playing that video, and the noise you hear there is from the pandemonium there. People, the congregation haven't left their seats, many of them now on the first altar and shouting on the priests. So you have an idea of what is going on, and I mean that's a sight you never want to witness. That is as sad as it comes. I just said earlier on, engaging with that story of the breakdown of law and order in South Africa, to say when people have reservations, even deep-seated issues in the secular world, the secular world should know Christians as those who always choose the peaceful means to resolve their conflicts. Yeah, and then eventually we see the priest obviously going into the church bus, trying to leave. I mean, this will be bad. It will be horrible. It will be unacceptable on any Sunday or on any day in any church but this happened on Palm Sunday, according to the person who posted this video. This happened on Palm Sunday, a day that we should be commemorating the humility of our Lord and his acclamation as the King, as the one who comes in the name of the Lord. This gives me such profound sadness, and as I hope it should give to you. Another person wrote saying the commission is angry because the bishop does things without consulting anyone in the church. He demands for a bribe before giving out a contract. That's the vicar. He's wise and dares us. I mean, listen to what this person said.
Láti máa sọ pé kí ẹni tó gbéṣẹ́ fún kó máa fún wọn ní percentage which is uncalled for. Then wọ́n máa ń sọ̀rọ̀ nínú ìjọ pé ìbùlẹ̀ fúyẹ́ pé wọ́n ti gbé wa wò. It's as if they are using spiritual something. So wọ́n ní wọ́n ti gbé wa wò pé àfúyẹ́. Àwọn kan bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn ló ń bí ìjọ nínú. Kí pásítọ̀ kó tún máa ṣépè nínú ìjọ. Àfẹ́rú ẹ̀ nínú ìjọ wa. Ìjọ yìí ti wà tipẹ́tipẹ́. Àdẹ̀ṣẹ̀ gbá díkìrì ni. Wọ́n dẹ̀ gbé wọn wá sí ibà. So a ti sọ fún bíṣọ̀bù ti wá. A sọ pé kí bíṣọ̀bù kò gbé wọn lọ. Kọ́ máa gbé wọn lọ. Kọ́ gbẹ́lòmíì wá fún bó ṣe curate ní kọ́fílẹ̀ fún wa a máa lo curate adẹ̀bá tójú ṣe wà ní diocese but gbúrò bishop kò dáhùn sí wa láti pẹ́ wọ́n ní ká lọ sanwó wọn adẹ̀ tí sanwó wọn so àrírí àjọ bishop sí that time.
ẹ kò ní mọ́sà nǹkan tá a rí lè ní pé àlùfáà ìjọ bó ṣe ń ná wa lówó a nífẹ̀ẹ́ sí a dẹ̀ ti pé bishop tó bá wa dá sí so nǹkan tó sọ fún wa ni pé a fẹ́rẹ̀ pé a fúyẹ́ pé àjà anything so nǹkan tá a fẹ́ fi sọ fún mi pé fúyẹ́ o àwọn ọmọ òbílẹ̀ fúyẹ́ kì í ṣe pé àwọn ọkọ̀ tó yẹ ká ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ à ń dúró di bishop láti jọ èkó fún wa lésì nígbà tó ti fún wa lésì so ìdí nìyẹn tàbí gbé ìjọ ìlé ni àbẹ́ anybody jà àbọ̀ náà jà àdẹ̀bá àlùfáà jà tí àlùfáà tí bishop bá ti rẹ́dì láti gbé tó bá ti rẹ́dì láti gbé kó gbé tó bá ti rẹ́dì láti gbé kó jẹ́ kó wà ní vicarage ẹ̀ kó máa ṣe tiẹ̀ nǹkan tó bá jẹ́ tó sí àáfún bẹ́ẹ̀ kó dẹ̀ máa wà sí church kí ó rèé tẹ̀ ń wà bẹ́ẹ̀ kó wá máa wàásù fún wa ìyẹn ò dín yẹn lọ so àbájá o.
So, I mean, if you understand Yoruba language, you must get a gist of what those two parishioners, members of that church, what they said. Essentially saying that, well, the vicar they have posted to their parish, by the bishop of Akure diocese, southwest Nigeria, that they have estimated that the vicar has not been prudent and has not been even faithful, honest in the handling of the finances of the church, that he would award, project and contract without consulting the necessary committee, and that they are accusing him of accepting bribes, from contractors. I mean, we have not heard from the vicar himself, who most likely will not speak unless as permitted by the Bishop of Akure Diocese. They have said that they took the extraordinary step of chasing him out of the church and of locking up the church because, well, the Bishop of Akure Diocese, who should discipline the vicar, has refused to do so or has delayed in doing so. They could not wait for him any longer. Again, you look at a matter like this. This is very similar to how we approached the xenophobic protest in South Africa. When we're engaging with that story, I said that sometimes it is the reaction that is worse than the action. It's the reaction to the provocation that is worse than the action. And that is why one must pray for the grace to be measured in one's reactions to provocations. Because ultimately, because in some cases, your reaction to provocation may now lead you to become the guilty person in the eye of the law, but not only that, but also in the eyes of God, in the eye of God. Because in the case of South Africa, let's assume that Igbo community in Eastern Cape, South Africa, did provoke the local resident of that place, the people of Eastern Cape, South Africa. Let's assume that maybe because we were not there, maybe they've been doing certain things, they've been saying certain things, they've been dominating them in some certain ways, and they've been carrying themselves about in some certain ways that are provocative, and that the people of Eastern Cape have had it up to here. And maybe if we were to know all the things that the Igbo community did there, we also would say, they should be stopped. Maybe, perhaps, right? But you know what? the reaction to provocation could end up being the most condemnable thing, could end up being the one that should rightly attract legal punishment. And now we're not talking. Now we're in this second story. We're not talking about Eastern Cape South Africa. We're not talking about secular matters. We're not talking about civil matters. We're talking about church matters. So these people who chased that vicar out of that church, who locked up that church, it will not be wise for us to rush to condemn them. We do not know, right, what happened in that church before then. We are not privy to those things. But we are in a good position to condemn what they have done, even without having the full, without having the benefit of the fullness of the story, the full facts, the complete fact of the case. Why are we able to do that? Because we know that what the Bible expects us to do as Christians is never to resort to what is illegal, to what is sinful, to what is not noble, in pursuit of a zeal for righteousness. If you say that, oh, I'm so zealous for God, I'm so angry that this pastor or this church leader or this vicar is behaving this way, and therefore I'm going to take into my own hands to do it. Where is the place of God? Where is the place of God who owns his church? Where is the place of him who has said, vengeance is mine, I will avenge? I mean, I cannot imagine the audacity of a Christian who says to himself, oh, this man who is leading my church is behaving unseemly or even behaving unrighteously, and then I'm going to take it upon myself to pull him out, to disgrace him, and to lock up a church where people worship. So I'm really, really alarmed that these parishioners took that extraordinary step. As I said earlier on, it is possible that upon being told the full details of the story of what has gone before, perhaps one would also be alarmed. One would also be angry at the vicar. Perhaps, we do not know. Maybe that would be the case. But I repeat again that by the grace of God, I will never be a party to anybody who would say, well, now this is the time for us to take the law into our own hands. And according to them, they've said, they reported him to the person who is supervising him. That would be the Bishop of Akure diocese. But he has been slow. He has been slow in responding. Maybe there's something to say about that too, but that would be a question of fact. Whether he has been slow, it would be a question of fact. It would be a question of hearing from him as well to know whether he was going through some processes. But you know what? This matter of, let me do it because somebody has been slow in coming, well, we have a precedent for it in the Bible, right? Was it not Saul, right? The King Saul, who said, look, Samuel, we know it is your duty to do this. Only you can carry out this sacrifice. But you know what? You have delayed in coming. And therefore, I will do what I have to do. That's a dangerous thing for Christians to do. Whether you're talking about church matters, spiritual matters, or even in our everyday decisions, to say, look, God has delayed in coming. Therefore, let me resort to my own means of getting justice for myself, of getting things done. And there are plenty of examples like that in the Bible. Sarah and Abraham felt God has delayed in coming. Let us resort to some other means, right, to have a child. And so came about Ishmael, right? Saul felt Samuel had delayed in coming. Therefore, let me go in there and do that, which I should do. The audacity. Even King Uzziah, one of the longest reigning kings in Israel, who had a prosperous reign, a glorious reign, until he did what? Until he went to the temple and offered a sacrifice that should have been offered by someone else, that should have been offered only by the priests. He must have thought himself, maybe he became so self-confident in his successes and in the glory of his reign, he felt, well, nothing could go wrong. There is a thin line between waging a righteous war, fighting a righteous cause, and falling into unrighteousness. And that's the danger here, and that's my own takeaway from this. I do understand that sometimes those in charge of church administration, they become high-handed, they do horrible things, they do things truly deserving of condemnation. Those things happen, we know that, but there's a thin line between waging war against unrighteousness and falling into unrighteousness. And nobody wants to do that. And most of these things happen because many Christians do not really or truly appreciate the place of prayer. Right, the place of prayer. There are many churches who have had to deal with matters like this, but who have had it resolved without any fight, without any rancor, without any pandemonium, because they had people who were praying on their knees, and God worked the miracle for them. And God worked that for them, and that's so true. Christians know that, or many true Christians should know that God can work out things for you without you taking up a weapon, sometimes even without you speaking out at all. And of course, we should always remember what Moses said to the Israelites in Exodus. Said, "You keep your peace, and you will see what." And see the salvation of the Lord. Hold your peace and see the salvation of the Lord. And that should be the approach, for Christians. When you have been provoked so much, so badly, that you are tempted to take action, that you are tempted to do things that otherwise you would not do. If those things you are tempted to do are unrighteous things, if those things you are tempted to do will not be glory to God, you should resist that temptation and hear what Moses told the people in Exodus 14, 13 to 14. Take up your position, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord on your behalf. And that means so much. When you say the salvation of the Lord on your behalf, the Lord will fight for those who have chosen not to fight for themselves. Right? If you choose to say, "Look, I'm not going to fight for myself. This is the Lord's battle," He's going to do it Himself. Do you know the reason why David did not hold a spear in his hand or a sword in his hand, and he took only a stone? Because he knew that the battle was the Lord's, and the battle will always be the Lord's when it is righteousness versus unrighteousness. Do not be afraid. You stand still, hold your peace, and you will see the salvation of the Lord. Those who don't hold their peace, who are actually trying to get vengeance for themselves, they're not going to do the salvation of the Lord. Why would the Lord step in to help you when you're already helping yourself? And that would be my answer. That would be my counsel to those parishioners who went on record and granted this interview, telling about the issues they've been having with the vicar in that church in Akure, who said, "Look, we can no longer wait for the bishop because, we told him we reported it to him. He has not done anything." I'll say to them, "Look, the Lord is not going to fight on your behalf. You have chosen to fight for yourself, right? Let's see how much good will come out from this. Let's see what benefit will come to you from this." Again, this is not excusing whatever wrongs might have been done by that vicar or by the committee administering their parish, or even maybe by the bishop who supervises that vicar and that church. We do not know, and so we cannot make judgment on that. But there are situations where once you see the reaction to an alleged provocation, you're able to say, "Look, this reaction is not godly. This reaction does not glorify God at all." If your reaction to provocation will not glorify God, if your reaction to provocation will bring the name of God to disrepute, if your reaction to provocation will lead to wanton destruction of properties and lives, that is not the right reaction. That is the exact situation where you need to hold your peace and wait for the salvation of the Lord, and then go on your knees and pray. And sometimes the reason why people don't go on their knees and pray when they are provoked is because they themselves do not have the best of intentions, the best of motives in the fight. Because I always say to myself, if your intentions are truly pure, if your motivation is only to glorify the Lord, why will you not then wait for Him to step in and resolve the conflict? Why would you not trust Him enough, for you to go on your knees and say, "I'm going to wait on Him and see what He's going to do"? I'm talking about waiting on the Lord. I go to our final story today. This is a heartwarming story reported on lindaikejiblog.com. It says, Nigerian couple welcome baby after, guess what, 25 years of waiting. Nigerian couple welcome baby after 25 years of waiting. A Nigerian couple, Chief and Mrs. This is a name heavy to call. Obviously from the south side of Nigeria, let me make an attempt. A Nigerian couple, Chief and Mrs. Akure Oturobo, have welcomed a baby girl after 25 years of waiting. The Thanksgiving service and dedication for their miracle baby, Praise, was on Sunday, March 29, 2026 in Warri, Delta State, and there are videos and pictures to accompany this. Somebody wrote saying, truly God makes all things beautiful in his time. This precious gift is a testament to his divine timing and your unwavering faith. Congratulations on your answered prayer. Our God of times and seasons has done it. May this beautiful baby bring even more laughter, light, and joy into your home. Congratulations. And I echo the sentiments and wishes of this gentleman, and I say to the couple again, congratulations. God does make all things beautiful in its time, and this is the glory of waiting. You wait on the Lord, and eventually it comes through, if that is his wish and desire in that particular matter. But for those who do not want to wait on him, he's also going to the Lord will be patiently waiting on you to begin to wait on him, right? And oh, what pity for those who decide to take matters into their own hands, who say, look, the Lord has delayed in coming, then we're going to do it for ourselves. The people of Eastern Cape, South Africa, in a manner of speaking, must have said to themselves, look, we're not going to wait on the court to pronounce on this. We're not going to wait on the legislature to promulgate laws to prohibit the installation of an Igbo king in Eastern Cape. We're not going to wait for the police to restrict these people from carrying out. We're going to take the laws into our hands, and so they did, and started burning down buildings and buses. Let us hope nobody dies from those protests. The people in that church in Akure, Southwest Nigeria, must have said to themselves, look, we are not going to wait on the head of our church to discipline this vicar who we believe has acted wrongly. Even the vicar himself, we're not going to wait on God to call him to order. We are tired of waiting. We're going to take the laws into our hands. So they prevented the Palm Sunday service from being celebrated. They put the church under lock and key and said, look, no, we're not going to do it any longer. No Christian should ever be of that mind. We should never be of that mind. May we have the grace to wait on him. And when you have made your point, when you have stood for righteousness and you are not having your way, well, go on your knees. You go on your knees and ask God to intervene. And this is the assurance we have from God. It's not going to delay. It's not ever going to delay. He said, vengeance is mine, I will avenge. He said, I will avenge. That's a solemn promise that he has made. And he is known to be one who keeps his word. I want to thank you very much for staying with us this morning on Gospel Best Radio for On the Lord's Side, Christian perspectives on news and current events. I want to be with you again tomorrow by the grace of God. Whatever you do today, please remain firmly on the Lord's side. God bless you. God bless you.
You are listening to GospelBellsRadio.com, the Christian internet radio with a mission to engage the culture with the mind of Christ. Keep listening and invite others too. God bless you.
Engaging the culture with the mind of Christ.
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 Engaging the culture with the mind of Christ.